Am I a Yellowstone National Park fan? What? Am I a Yellowstone National Park fan? I just love to see the giraffes walking around Yellowstone. It's my favorite thing.
You might think I'm crazy.
Hello everyone, let's get into the video. Alright, this is the official 2024 summer vacation vlog video that I've been meaning to do for quite some time. And I'm really looking forward to talking about the trip and what I took away from it. So altogether, like all the cities, states that I visited were Mound City, Missouri, Sioux Falls, Iowa, Mitchell, South Dakota, Rapid City, South Dakota, Keystone, Gray Cliff, Montana, Rawlins, Wyoming, and then Salina, Kansas was the last stop on our trip. As for the destinations that we went on, some of them may be familiar, some might be completely unknown. So we have Falls Park, the Washington Pavilion, the Corn Palace, the Wall Drugstore, Mount Rushmore National Memorial, the Crazy Horse Memorial, the Gray Cliff Mill, and then Yellowstone National Park. Okay, but before we get into the main portion of the video, please check out the links in the description. I will add some new ones by the time this video comes out. I'll keep that updated and checked out as needed. I encourage you to check that out. We left for our trip on the 24th of May, and we traveled to Kansas City on our first day. We just stayed one night in Kansas City, and I think I recorded one short clip of me in the exercise / gym room of the hotel, of me like recapping what the drive has been thus far and kind of gave my thoughts of what had happened, so you all can see that now. Okay, so I'm currently in Kansas City, Missouri right now. I am by myself in the fitness center. Wait.
Cover up more on a date. Oh girl. Don't let it happen again. Don't interrupt me again.
I don't know how much longer I'm gonna have this space, but it'll be fine. We got into our hotel like about an hour ago, and we've been driving for about 4 or 5 hours, so everyone's just kind of like decompressing. Y'all could probably hear a lot of that probably. We're here in Kansas City for one night, and then we're going to go to Mount City, Missouri tomorrow. The landscape hasn't been super breathtaking, I guess for lack of a better term, but I think I'm gonna have dinner pretty soon, and then I'll check back in later. The next day we left Kansas City, and then we drove to Mound City, Missouri. And for those who aren't aware, Mound City is a very, very small town in the state of Missouri. I think I have been there, at least from the times that I can recollect, maybe 3 to 6 times. Yeah, just as like a background for all of you, my grandfather was a pastor at one of the churches there, and so like my dad grew up in Mound City, and then his high school reunion just happened to be happening that day, so that was the main reason why we went to Mound City. It was being held at like a distillery company, so there really wasn't anything for me to do there since it was his event, and then it was just my brother and I. We're just like, okay, we're here for a little bit, not really much for us to do, and I also don't drink, which is besides the point. So I think we just like went to a nearby Subway, and that's what we had for lunch, and then he just kind of like talked to all the people that he went to school with and like caught up. The next day we left Mound City, and then we stopped in Sioux City, Iowa for lunch, and we went to this place called Ogawa Sushi, which I'll include a couple photos here. A quick shameless plug. I did like a mini vlog segment on the TikTok account, so I will include that in the description. I think it's about like 7.5 minutes long. I haven't posted it on YouTube, which I think I'll just keep it on TikTok for now. But I'll put that in the description in case you're interested. While we were in Sioux City, Iowa, it just so happens that my mom used to live there, so then we visited her old like work place and maybe the apartment complex she used to live in, but I think we visited the site, but the building itself wasn't there anymore. We spent a few hours there, and then we drove to, wait, where is Falls Park? Wait, Sioux City? Oh wait, there's Sioux Falls in Iowa, and then there's Sioux City in South Dakota. Okay, that's what it is. I'm probably gonna get Sioux Falls and Sioux City like mixed up a few times. We spent a few hours in Sioux Falls, Iowa, and then we traveled to Sioux City, South Dakota, which we visited the Falls Park there. And I hadn't heard about Falls Park until I was doing some researching. I have to say, if you're visiting South Dakota, I highly encourage you to visit. It's just really beautiful, and there's like a lot of space there. There's plenty of walking trails, and there's plenty of places to take photos, and there was also a tower nearby, so then we could go up the elevator and get a wider view of the park. And can't recommend that destination enough, but Falls Park is definitely worth checking out. We left Sioux Falls the following day, and then we got coffee at this place called Coffea. I wish I could have uprooted that entire location and like brought it back with me to the state that I live in, because their coffee was really good. They had a lot of pastries there, and there was like a lot of places to sit, and it was really roomy inside. But before we left Iowa, I was looking at some places that we could visit before we eventually left. And there was this place called the Washington Pavilion, which I think it was a museum of sorts. And it was. There's also like I think there might have been like a space exhibit, but this pavilion had like a lot of like different rooms and areas to look at and learn from. But it was a pretty cool time. I learned a lot going through there. May or may not be the last time I go there, but there was also a theater that was there as well. I just remember that. Yeah, this place was pretty big too. I would also recommend visiting there if you're in Sioux Falls. Again, I don't know. It's Sioux Falls, Sioux City. I'm gonna get it mixed up this entire video. I don't know what to tell you. From there, we left Iowa to travel to the Corn Palace in Mitchell. And I have literally never seen anything like this location before. The lore and the history behind this Corn Palace is very extraordinary. Extraordinary might be an extreme term, but it's just been around for decades upon decades, and there's been thousands, if not millions of people who have stepped foot in there. I have a little snow globe here. Oh, can you do that? Yeah, this place had corn related products as their main source of income. So there was corn stuffed plushies, there was mugs, shirts, jewelry, ornaments, pretty much like any sort of memorabilia or product that you think a corn or anything like corn related could be attached, it's probably in there. Oh, and they had popcorn. Of course they had popcorn. I guess it's not the most like outstanding place you could ever visit, but it's definitely worth the drive. If you're like passing through, then might as well stop by the Corn Palace, you know what I'm saying? After the Corn Palace, we visited the Wall Drug Store in South Dakota, and this is your #1 tourist spot. If you're traveling to South Dakota or anywhere or like any like states adjacent, Wall Drug Store is the place that you need to go for any kind of souvenir, any kind of gift. There are bookstores, there were places to get cowboy hats and boots, and they were selling art, I think specifically from like Native American artists. So those are really astounding to look at, but all of them were very pricey. I think we spent maybe like 2.5 hours like looking around at this Wall drugstore, and then we went to Rapid City, South Dakota, and then we checked into the, I think it's called the Alex Johnson Hotel. We checked in there that night. I think we might have stayed on the, was that the top floor that we stayed on? I don't know, but the interior of the hotel was very old-fashioned, but still kept modern. Like, it's a very famous hotel as well. Like, a lot of presidents and actors and singers and people of the sort have stayed in at that hotel. Yeah, I think I recorded like a short clip of what the inside of our hotel room looked like, so this hotel had a rule about their parking. They had like a specific place for guests to park their vehicles. I think it was like valet or something. So our dad was like, I'm not paying that much for you to take my car, and it's like already overpriced as it is. So then we took a hike and walked several blocks to find our family van. In retrospect, I didn't mind the walk at all. I did not mind the walk, having to go down from the top floor down to the bottom floor, out onto the street, and then walk, was it like 2 blocks to get to where our family van was placed. By this time, it is the 28th of May. By this time, we stayed one night at the Alex Johnson Hotel. And then this was the highlight of our trip. So we were in Rapid City, South Dakota, and then we visited the Bear Country USA Wildlife Park, which I think it was maybe like a 15 or 20 minute drive away from where we were. I can put the correct time or like distance it took for us to leave the hotel. If you're traveling to South Dakota, visit Bear Country and support the people that work there, and especially support the animals. So a wildlife park, I guess for the people that don't know or who aren't familiar, so the wildlife are just in specific enclosures of this location. So people can drive in their car and they can drive through a gate, but you all drive very slowly because there's deer, buffalo, or bison. I think it was bison. Sioux Falls, Sioux City, buffalo, bison. Don't know the difference. But yeah, you drive slowly through like preset paths for you to drive your vehicle through, and you can take pictures of the animals. They're just kind of like chilling, doing their own thing, but you cannot feed them. Don't feed them stuff from your vehicle, okay? That's not allowed. I took a video of baby bears. I think they're like 8 or 10 of them just playing with each other. Like, we came at like the perfect time. They were just playing with each other, going up and down a tree. It was super cute. And then later we came back to see what they were doing, and they were all sleeping together, like underneath like this little like den. I don't think that's the right word for it, but they're sleeping under something that kept the sun from beaming down on them. Also, the Bear Country USA, they do a really good job of taking care of their animals, at least from what we could see, at least from a visitor's perspective. They do like a really good job of like providing information about each of the animals and what kind of food they're given and how much time they spent out in their enclosure, like how old each of the animals are. Like, they do like a really good job of taking care of them, I feel like. I also got a few souvenirs. So I got this black bear, and then we also had this little snow globe, as you can see here. After leaving Bear Country, we went to Keystone, South Dakota to grab lunch. And I think we went to this pizza restaurant. It's a very unique place. Let's just say that. We visited, or I walked through the sale of all these different wooden carvings. So there were like benches and chairs, but more specifically, and like the main attraction was the world's largest Bigfoot, which I don't think I took a photo of it, but I definitely put it in my TikTok mini vlog. And there's like a lot of different ones there, but all of them were pretty expensive, but also really well made. After we spent some time in Keystone, then we finally drove to the Mount Rushmore National Memorial, which was the highlight of the trip. I didn't really know what I was expecting. I think I was just expecting the memorial, people taking photos of it and leaving, which more or less, that's pretty much it. Let me tell you, it's so surreal to look at. Like, I took so many photos of it, but like even just like looking at it with like my own 2 eyes, it looks so surreal. Like, it almost doesn't even look real, but it is. There's like this wide open space where there are like, I think that's about right, hundreds of people were scattered in the viewing area, just like taking photos. Like, there's also like more info and like the history of how the memorial was built inside the building. Also, can't recommend the Mount Rushmore National Memorial enough. Even if you're just like, okay, let's go, and then you go away, and then you leave. Yeah, but it's still worth the trip, though. After visiting Mount Rushmore, then we visited the Crazy Horse Memorial, and that one is still in the process of being built. Okay, so in case you didn't know, I'm just going to quickly read this little short blurb from Wikipedia. Crazy Horse was a Lakota war leader of the Oglala Band. In the 19th century, he took up arms against the United States federal government to fight against encroachment by white American settlers on Native American territory and to preserve the traditional way of life of the Lakota people. So yeah, they definitely made a memorial for good reason. His memory and like the history like lives up to this day. And you know what the funny thing is that the memorial is still in the process of being built. It'll probably take like 30, like 40 years from now, probably. Or they have like the full image of the memorial of like what it's supposed to look like when it's supposed to be done. Like, I think like miniature sculptures, for lack of a better term. And again, they have like a lot of Native American jewelry and apparel. There was a presentation that was being held. I also got like a really good spot during this presentation because as he was performing the flute, the Crazy Horse memorial, like the completed sculpture, and then the real one in the way far out background was in construction. So that was a really cool angle, but I'll include a little bit of that here. I was still at the memorial and like still sitting down, whereas the rest of the family kind of like checked out and they're like, all right, Joshua, you let us know when you're ready to go. We're in the car. We're ready to go back to the hotel. And I'm like, there's still so much to see here, but okay. The next day was the 29th and we checked out of the Alex Johnson Hotel pretty early in the morning. We went to this place called Einstein Bros for breakfast. Not Dutch Bros. Most of that day was spent driving to Montana. So we left really early in the morning because I think it was like 5 or 6 hours. But we stopped for lunch at a city that I don't remember where. So we went to the Great Cliff Mills in Montana. And that was we got there around maybe 8:20, 8:30 in the evening. But from the looks of it, or at least from the video I took, it does not look like 8:30 at night. The sky and the landscape and the weather, beautiful. I really liked Montana. That was my first time ever going to Montana. And you know the other funny, not so funny thing that also happened this day on the 29th? So that day is my birthday. But I also received a DM from my cousin saying that, my Aunt Maria passed away. It was such a weird, conflicting time. Like, my cousins lost their mom, and now here I am. Oh, it's my birthday, and my aunt just passed away. But after all that driving, the sleep that we got was very well worth it. The next day, we explored more of the Great Cliff Mills, and this whole lodge area for visitors was built, I think, in 2021, so it's still relatively quite new. And if you are traveling to Montana, I would recommend you to travel to Great Cliff, and at the mills there's a lot of stuff to do, and it's really well kept and it's very neat. But later we walked more around the area, and then there's this little, not even little, there's this vast space where there is these horses and this donkey that were just chilling out in Cedar Rapids, just in that space. And then of course I never have much interaction with animals, so I'm like, oh my gosh, I might get to see a horse, let alone have physical interaction with one. And I did, with a donkey who was very friendly with me, and I'm like, oh, you want a scratch? Oh, I'll give you one. Me, being very touch deprived with animals. So I'm like, I'll give you a scratch here, on your leg, not on your leg, they could kick you. Ear, your neck, yeah. We had pizza for dinner that day, and then the next day we left Montana around 8 in the morning, I will include a short video of what the inside of this lodge looked like. It was very small, but it was really perfect for the 4 of us. And I slept in like the upstairs bunk. We were all pretty tired, but we knew that we needed to leave early in order to get to the Yellowstone National Park sooner than later. So we left around like 8:30 in the morning. We packed up all of our stuff and then we drove right down to the national park. So I think we arrived at the national park around 12, maybe 1. So it was right around lunchtime. You know, technology is really something else sometimes. Well, you know, because back in the day, did anybody know when Old Faithful was gonna erupt? No. But when we got to the national park, they have a timer which predicts, I think for the most part, accurately when the Old Faithful Geyser is going to erupt. So there's like a timer saying like, oh, the Old Faithful Geyser is predicted to erupt at 1:30 or 2 p.m. for example. I mean, both parents of mine had been to Yellowstone before, so they just kind of like took their chance to see if they're gonna see Old Faithful erupt. But like this time around, oh, we were there. We saw the Old Faithful Geyser erupt, and then we got back into the van, and then we drove through the park. I don't think we drove through the entire park because it is absolutely massive. And there's plenty of like places to walk and take photos, and people were fishing. Drove through the park as much as we could handle and as much as like we weren't exhausted. Then we went to Rawlins, Wyoming, where we went to another sushi restaurant. But we stayed one night in Wyoming, and here's a video of the outside of that restaurant. Funny story about us checking into the hotel in Kansas. So what had happened was a random dog peed all over my suitcase. Legit came out of the blue. We all get out of the vehicle. We're like standing, I'm outside with my brother, and we're just like waiting to get checked in. And then there's a car next to us, and the owner has dogs with him as well, and he's trying to get his dogs inside his vehicle. And then this, I guess, stray dog just comes out of nowhere. It's like brown spots, but it's like a white dog, and then just starts barking at these dogs, and then they just kind of like go back and forth, and it gets kind of like almost nasty for a second, which I'm glad that it didn't. It takes me like 5 seconds, way too long to realize what was happening, but the stray dog comes up around me, sniffs my suitcase, lifts its leg, and then urinates on the suitcase. And then I was like, wait a minute, is this dog peeing on me? And then by then it was too late, and then there's like this urine stain on the suitcase. I'm not for animal cruelty, believe me. I've never been for it. But that dog, had I known what was happening, that dog was 6 seconds away from getting his T clocked, okay? I would have been revolved 180 of that suitcase, bop, right in the head. So yeah, we had Cordoba for dinner, and then we stayed one night there, and then the next day was the 2nd of June, and then we left Kansas. But before we left Salina, Kansas, we visited a coffee shop called Ad Astra, and here's a little clip of the inside of that coffee shop. yeah, that was our last day driving, and then we finally arrived back home several hours later. And that's it. That's the entirety of the trip. Just getting to witness God's creation was truly a treat, and I don't take it for granted, and I'm glad that I can make use of this trip and put it in this vlog format for me to look back on later. Obviously, people make these travel vlogs. There's someone that's traveling somewhere right now and is making a vlog about it, so there's hundreds if not thousands of these kind of vlogs out there on YouTube as it is. I know mine probably doesn't stand out too much. I mean, thousands of people have visited Mount Rushmore and have made videos about it, so who am I to say that this video is offering you anything different? Oh yeah, where would I like to travel next? I really would like to travel to New York one of these days. Maybe it'll happen, I don't know. I think that's all for me for today. I hope for the returning viewers this isn't too much of a shock to your system. I did let you all know that I'd be changing the format of this channel. So, thank you for the people that are here despite the change in the normal content that I usually make. And if you've been to any of these places that I've mentioned, what were your experiences like? I'd be curious to know what you all thought about these places that I mentioned, if you have traveled to. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.